Thames, cooling the heat rising up from the cobbled streets. Comfortable in a big four-poster bed, Cordell Easton, 5th Earl of Brant, lounged back against the carved wooden headboard. Across from him, Olivia Landers, Viscountess Westland, sat naked on a stool in front of her mirror, slowly pulling a silver-backed hairbrush through her long, straight, raven-black hair. "Why don't you put down that brush and come back to bed?" Cord drawled. "Once I get through with you, you'll only have to comb it again." She turned on the stool, and a seductive smile curved her ruby lips. "I thought perhaps you wouldn't be interested again quite so soon." Her eyes ran over his body, sweeping the muscles across his chest, following the thin line of dark hair arrowing down his stomach, coming to rest on his sex. Her eyes widened as she realized he was fully aroused. Amazing how wrong a woman can be. Leaving the stool, she walked toward him, long black hair swinging forward, the only thing hiding her very seductive body, making him harder than he was already. Olivia was a widow, a very young and tasty widow whom Cord had been seeing for the past several months. But she was spoiled and selfish, and she was fast becoming more trouble than she was worth. Cord had begun to think of ending the affair. Not today, however. Today he had stolen a couple of hours away from the stack of papers he had been poring over, badly in need of a diversion. Livy was good for that, if nothing more. She tossed her black hair over her shoulder as she climbed up onto the deep feather mattress. "I want to be on top," she purred. "I want to make you squirm." What she wanted was the same thing she always demanded, rough, hard-pounding sex, and he was just in the mood to give it to her. The problem was, once they were finished, he had begun to feel oddly dissatisfied. He told himself he should cast about for some new female companionship. That always raised his spirits, among other parts of his body. But lately, he simply couldn't get into the thrill of the hunt. "Cord, you aren't listening." She tugged on a tuft of curly brown chest hair. "Sorry, sweeting." But he wasn't really contrite, since he was certain nothing she had to say would interest him in the least. "I was distracted by your very lovely breasts." To which he directed his full attention, taking one of them into his mouth as he lifted her astride him and slid her luscious body the length of his powerful erection. Olivia moaned and began to move, and Cord lost himself in the sweet charms of her body. Livy peeked, and Cord followed. Then the pleasure began to fade, disappearing as if it had never existed. As Livy climbed from the bed, the thought he'd been having of late began to creep in. Surely there is more than just this. Cord shoved the thought beneath the dozens of other problems he had been facing since his father had died, and he had inherited the Brant title and fortune. Following Olivia out of bed, he began to pull on his clothes. There were 1,000 things he needed to do, investments he needed to consider, accounts he needed to review, tenant complaints and shipping invoices. And there was his ongoing worry about his cousin. Ethan Sharp had been missing for nearly a year, and Cord was determined to find him. Still, no matter how busy he was, he always found time for his single great vice, women. Convinced a new mistress was the answer to his recent bout of gloom, Cord vowed to begin his search. "What if it's the curse?" Claire looked at Tory with big, blue, worried eyes. "You know what people say. Mama told us 12 times. She said the necklace could bring very bad fortune to the person who owned it." "You're being ridiculous, Claire. There is no such thing as a curse. Besides, we don't own it. We just borrowed it for a while." But it had certainly brought misfortune to her stepfather. Tory gnawed at her bottom lip as she remembered the Baron lying on the floor next to the bureau in Claire's bedchamber, a trickle of blood running from the gash in the side of his head. Dear God, she had prayed every night since it happened that she had not killed him. Not that he didn't deserve to die for what he had tried to do. "Besides, if you remember the story correctly," Tory added, "it can also bring the owner good fortune." "If the person's heart is pure," Claire put in. "That's right." "We stole it, Tory. That's a sin. Now look at what is happening to us. Our money's almost gone. They're going to throw us out of our room. Pretty soon we won't even have enough to buy something to eat." "We're just having a little bad luck is all. It has nothing